Hi everyone, I'm Heather.
And I'm Alex.
And we're here in the Chem and Plant Sciences Lab to give you the scoop
on soil.
So some people call this dirt, but here at the garden we prefer soil. That's because dirt gives the impression that this is something non-living, something dead. But
something
we
dirty.
Know, right, it's not dirty at all. And it's alive. Actually, there are billions of living things, billions with a B, living things that can be found in a scoop of soil. So we're here to tell you all about it. And the connection is that all these living things, these nutrients, these minerals, and these microorganisms all support our favorite thing,
plants!
So let's start by talking about the non-living things that make up soil.
Yes, so these are components of soil. These are the abiotic components, meaning non-living. Let's start with the largest particle, which you're probably familiar with. This is sand. Sand is the largest component of soil, which are just broken down pebbles and rocks and shells from water. So that's sand.
The second largest particle size is this one right here. This is silt. It's very soft, kind of feels like flour. And if you're like me, when you hear silt, you think of rivers. And that's because silt is essentially that smooth mud at the bottom of rivers. And we find more silt in soils that are near waterways.
Yes. Now the smallest particle, although we have some large chunks of it in here, is clay. So clay is very soft and smooth, sticky when wet, and then when it dries, it's hard like that. Often has a orange or red color. So this is clay, the smallest particle.
And next we have humus. It's not hummus.
Not hummus.
Not a tasty snack made of chickpeas. This is humus. It's the organic component of soil. It's basically your decomposed plant and animal materials. It's very dark in color, very rich in nutrients.
So the other two abiotic factors that we have are air and water. As we know, plants need both of those in the soil. So those are abiotic factors.
Right. So these non-living factors are hugely important. And in different parts of the world, they combine in different amounts to create different types of soil. But as we've mentioned, soil would not be the same without the living components. So let's talk about those too.
Yes. Firstly, let's start with the ones that we can see. All of those critters in the soil, like mice and insects, earthworms especially, are in that soil, moving it around, aerating the soil, but also providing nutrients. We also have fungi, and on top of the soil, fungi can look like mushrooms, right? But in the soil, there are long, stringy pieces of fungi, and those can help break down plant nutrients or plant material and return it as nutrients to the soil. But they can also create a mutualistic relationship with plants to help them provide nutrients, and they're both happy parties.
Right, and in addition to all these critters and things that we can see with our eyes, there is so much more happening that we can't see without a microscope. So first off, we've got tiny microscopic organisms like tardigrades, which are those cute little water bears, which we can't see with our eyes, but we can see under a microscope. There's also tons and tons of bacteria. And this bacteria is often, just like fungi, acting like a decomposer. So it's breaking down materials and making more soil. It's also releasing nutrients that the plants need to grow. And in some cases, it is doing even more. So there's one type of bacteria called cyanobacteria, which has a superpower. It is able to take nitrogen from the air and turn it into something that plants can use, which is hugely important because plants cannot survive without nitrogen. But plants are not able to pull it out of the air. So they need allies in the soil, like cyanobacteria, to make it available for them. Now, so far, we've been talking about soil, topsoil that you would find out in nature. But here at the garden and in your home gardens, you're probably using something else to grow your plants in.
Yes, so the substrate that you probably use in your garden, we use here at the garden, actually contains no soil at all.
Wow.
Yes.
So what's in it?
So this potting mix contains a lot of peat and compost. Heather, tell us a little bit about peat, P-E-A-T.
Yes, not my friend Peter.
Yes.
Peat is short for peat moss, and peat moss is harvested from an environment called a peat bog. And these bogs harbor some interesting wildlife, and they have some interesting characteristics. So it can take hundreds or thousands of years for these bogs to form. Basically, there is a location where this peat moss is breaking down along with other aquatic plants, and they can do a lot to sequester carbon. That means that they're holding on to carbon in their tissues so that it's not in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, which is hugely beneficial. But while they can take hundreds or thousands of years to form, it takes almost no time at all to extract them for things like potting mix. So the gardening world has recently been grappling with the concept that our use of peat-based potting mixes is unsustainable. Basically, we're using it faster than it can replenish itself. So what is the alternative, Alex?
So the alternative for you guys at home is to compost as much as you can. Compost is a great nutrient-rich addition to your soil. But here at the garden, we have also recently made the switch to a peat-free potting mix, which we have right here. So this potting mix is a combination of compost and coconut hulls.
Yeah, and you can see the fibers here, like the hairy coconut husk. And we found this mix to be just as good as our previous use of the peat-based soil. It holds onto water and nutrients just as well. And it can be modified to meet different needs of different plants. So we have here our cactus and succulent mix. As you may know, cacti and succulents, they like a lot more drainage, so they don't want as much water sitting in the soil. And so what do?
We add perlite. Now perlite, it's not styrofoam. People often think it is because you can squish it. Should we do this?
Get some, it's like pop rocks.
So this is a volcanic rock that adds to the soil to increase drainage. So it keeps the soil moist but not waterlogged.
Right, and it also is very porous, so it has lots of air pockets in there, which is another way to introduce that other abiotic component, the air. Very important.
Yes, so if you're looking to be a more environmentally conscious gardener, consider making the switch to a peat-free potting mix.
Thanks for digging into this topic with us.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.